GT Holidays, South India's #1 travel brand.
GUVI, a vernacular edutech brand, skilling everyone, everywhere.
Hello, Prithviraj. Welcome to Galatta Plus.
Thank you.
And this is a much anticipated film.
Yes.
But I just want to begin with an observation. You know, when Benjamin, who wrote Aadujeevitham, when he contacted Najib, whose character you're playing in this movie, he contacted this guy and he said, "Okay, I read this news item about you, and I want to, write something about you." He did not want to say that story because he had undergone such trauma.
Yeah.
He did not want to live through it again. But ironically, that story came out, the book became a bestseller and lakhs of people read it. Yeah. And now it's going to become a movie and many more people are going to watch it. So the story that he did not want to share is now, it's just going to go around the world.
Yeah.
You know, I find that very, very, very strange. You know, it's like a...
You know, but it's understandable because I think someone like Najib, when he eventually made it out of this experience, which in itself is incredible.
Right.
I can understand that there must have been a sense of shame that, I had to live through this. And I understand the fact that he would not want to talk about it.
Right.
You know, of course there's a trauma. Of course there's not wanting to live through all the memories once again. And like I said, maybe there was a sense of shame that I made a wrong choice and, my life took a turn that I'm not proud of. But I also think he must have realized once he started speaking about it, that this is something he must be extremely proud of, to be able to have gone through this, to be able to have fought through this, to be able to have come out at the other end of this, and then be able to tell the tale is a superhuman achievement.
Yeah.
And I'm assuming today he's proud of the fact that, he actually lived through the experience and he made it to the other end, and that he's able to tell the story and that there's a film being made on his life.
Yeah.
Like I said, another fellow journalist yesterday, one of the biggest gratifying moments for me as an actor is when he saw the footage and he kept repeating, all
the memories are...
Yeah, so I mean, I understand what it must be for him, So yeah, it's strange, like you said, that the phenomenon is probably taken a completely opposite direction to where it started off from.
Yeah.
But I'm glad that it is happening, and I'm hoping, and I think I know partly that Mr. Najib is also very proud of the fact that the world today looks at him as an inspiration.
Right, and it's like a, in a weird way, this film. Of course, you're playing Najib in this film. This film, in many ways, it's about time. It's about the time that Najib spent in the desert.
Yeah.
It's about the time it took to make the movie, which is like this incredible time, right? It's about the time since Blessy made his last movie in 2013, which is Kaliman.
Yeah.
So there's, I don't want to sound mystical or anything like that, but do you think some movies have their own destiny?
Oh, definitely. I believe all films have their own destiny. And for some film, the journey to eventually meeting that destiny is just a little more complicated than others. In all honesty, none of us anticipated that it was going to be a 16-year-long process.
Right.
But we knew that it was not going to be a 6-month-long process,
right.
like a usual Malayalam film back in those days. When we started on the process of making the film, Blessy and me thought it's going to be a 2-year-long process. And 2 years is a reasonable time frame to try and pull off something like this. And in all honesty, eventually when we were able to start filming in 2018, our entire scheduling was within 24 months.
Mm-hmm.
We would shoot the Kerala portions, then we would go to Jordan and shoot the first desert schedule where I had put on weight. And then we would break for, I think, 8 months was the plan.
Lose weight and...
Yeah, no, then do the winter of the weight loss schedule, then do the summer, then do the winter and then shift to, it was supposed to be Egypt back then, not Algeria, shift to Egypt and shoot the escape, and then come back to Kerala and finish the end portions, the prison portions and everything, which was a 2-year plan and it was reasonable. But unfortunately, the pandemic struck and then we had to suspend the shoot for a year and a half. And things changed in terms of permissions and how the international regulations were acting at that point in time for film crews to travel. So we, instead of Egypt, we then went to Algeria to shoot The Escape. And my God, what a fantastic decision it turned out to be. Because the terrain that we eventually got to shoot in, it was a little off a place called Timimoun in Algeria, right in the middle of the Sahara Desert. To my knowledge, I don't think another film crew has ever been there. And I can understand why, because it's very, very tough. But the terrain is just unbelievable. So in the end, it turned out to be a good decision. But then we shot in Algeria, we came back to Jordan, we finished what we could not finish when the pandemic had struck. Then we came back to Kerala, finished the film. So it became like a 4-year-long shooting process.
Right.
At the end of a 10 to 12 year long, ideating process and trying to get the project rolling. Then followed by another 1.5 years of post-production.
Right.
So it just became like a part of all our lives, I said this a lot yesterday that when I had said yes to the film, I wasn't married. I was not a father, obviously. I had not turned producer. I had not turned director. I wasn't a distributor. My life has changed across 16 years so much. And the one constant that was always there was this one film. And when I say constant, so many instances of me being in some part of the world doing something completely not connected to this film, and I might just zone out and suddenly think, oh, so what would have happened at that time, when Najib did that? What would I be thinking of? And the strangest thing is, I don't think that is going to stop even after the film releases.
Right. It's such a big part of your life.
Yeah, because I don't think my brain is now wired to tell myself that, okay, I can stop thinking of Najib because the film is done. Right. I think 10 years from now, I'll still be somewhere and might zone out and think of, oh, so that day when he did that, what would have happened? It's just an incredible journey. And I'm not sure I'll have the privilege of going through this process once again in my life as an actor. And I don't know how many actors have ever had the privilege of doing this.
Right, right. No, so you're saying that every film has its own destiny.
Yeah.
Like, okay, this film is a peculiar example, right? But what about something like Emperor, which you're directing right now? What is the destiny element in that?
So, see, I'll have to take you back to Lucifer for that. Murli Gopi, the writer, and me were working together in a film as co-actors called Tian, which was extensively shot in Ramoji Rao Film City, in Hyderabad. And the shooting got stuck in the middle of torrential, unexpected rain for almost a month in Hyderabad. And we were stuck, I think, for almost 100 days there. Every day we would think we'd be able to shoot. And we had put up this set of a big village just outside, which is now called Ramoji Rao Phase 2, I think. Just outside the gates, that side, the other side of the film city. And it would rain, and unfortunately, we never knew till it started raining that where the set had been put up, that if it rains for 10 minutes, you are knee-deep water.
Oh.
And then we would have these huge motors come in, drain the water away. It was a film called Tian. The film didn't do well, but I really absolutely love the idea behind the film.
Yeah.
So Murli and me had a lot of time of just sitting in our rooms and doing nothing. And as is the case with most of my conversations, and as I've now discovered most of Murli's conversations, it's mostly about cinema. Cinema, world politics and all that. So we used to just keep pitching our ideas and, dreams about cinema. And he used to keep telling me that, there is this thing that I have in mind that someday I would love for Mohanlal to do. And he told me this idea. So then we started talking about how could that idea be expanded, what kind of a film it could be. And he's the one who asked me, will you direct this? And I'm like, yeah, I want to direct a film sometime. Yeah, sure, why not? And he's the one who called Anthony Perumbavoor, my producer, and told me that, Prithvi would like to direct that idea I had pitched I have in mind for Mohanlal sir. I frankly thought Anthony Perumbavoor and Mohanlal sir would dismiss it as a joke. But the genius that Anthony Perumbavoor is, the next day morning he lands up in Ramoji Rao Film City and he says, we are doing the film. And before I have time to think it over, Mohanlal sir has put an FB post, saying, I'm doing this film. It's a very special film. Son of Sukumaran Chettan is directing and son of Govi Chettan is writing. And it suddenly became like the biggest news back then. And then the pressure was on me because everywhere I used to go, people used to ask me, when are you doing Lucifer? When are you doing Lucifer? And it eventually happened. And back then, when I did Lucifer, it was the most expensive film to have been pulled off in Malayalam. And we had no clue like how much, what kind of revenue, if we would be able to make this money back. And I'm sure as the filming was going on, my producer and even Mohanlal sir must have been thinking, man, can this guy pull this off? You know, it's just a giant film, and can this guy pull this off? But see, it sort of coincided with streaming rights making a grand entry into Malayalam cinema.
Right.
Just before Lucifer.
Wow, this is really destiny.
Yeah, just before the release of Lucifer is when Amazon decided that they are going to make a splash in Malayalam.
Right.
And what used to be 75 lakhs to a crore for streaming rights of Malayalam cinema, let's just say we got somewhere in the vicinity of 15 times that, you know.
Okay.
And it was a shocker to the whole industry. And suddenly the film made sense. Suddenly the film made
Viable,
sense.
yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And even back then we knew that to complete the whole story, it would have to be a 3-film franchise, which we never announced till the 50th day success function of Lucifer, but Murali and me knew.
Yeah.
But we also knew that there was no point in talking about it unless Lucifer is a smash hit, because we would have to rely on the goodwill of a potential super hit to be able to pull off what is the next part of the franchise. Luckily, the film, you know, did well. It happened. And then again, Empuran should have happened pre-pandemic.
Yeah.
If not for, you know, all that had happened to the world. And now I'm thinking if it had happened pre-pandemic, it wouldn't have been done the way it is being done right now. The story requires the film to be shot across the world,
right,
in multiple locations. And I don't know if I would have had access to all these places and people 5 years back.
Right.
You know, over the last 4 to 5 years, the world has started looking at Indian cinema differently. So to put it in perspective, if I email London Transport and tell them I'm an Indian filmmaker and I want to close off Waterloo Circle to, you know, to shoot a scene for a film, they now understand that it is not just Bollywood. They understand that, oh, okay, there are other industries and they are also equally big, and they are open to a meeting and discussing the possibilities, which I don't know if that would have happened 5 years back.
Right.
So again, that's a destiny, right? I mean, that the film is happening now in the fashion that is happening right now, and the way that we are able to do it now would not have been possible.
Right.
So yeah, each film has its own destiny.
Yeah, I mean, that was beautifully explained. You talked about the costs and OTT rights and things like that, right? One of the things that keeps coming up in Aadujeevitham discussions is that at that point, it was not possible or viable to mount a film of this scale in Malayalam cinema. What was the primary cost in the movie? I mean, I'm assuming it's the locations and other things, but I'm saying that was it not possible to cheat, like go to Rajasthan and you know, cheat like they do for so many films, right? So
we can also do this inside a studio.
Right.
Yeah, we can do this using you know, proper motion capture, you know, with an Unreal Engine. We can do it against LED screens, and the kind of talent that we have, technical talent that we have in Malayalam, we can make it look amazing.
Right.
But it was a decision that we will not go down that route.
Right.
That we will shoot this organically. We will have the elements interact with the actors.
Right.
It was a decision that Blessy made back in 2009 itself. And you are interesting that you should ask me about Rajasthan. Yes, the initial idea was that we do the main Masara set, which is a big chunk of the desert portions, in Jaisalmer. And you will not believe, I don't know how many people know the story. So the problem with shooting in India was only this, that we don't have that specific breed of sheep or camel in India. So we bought 250 sheep and I think 20 camels from Saudi Arabia.
Wow.
And they were brought to the Jeddah port to be transported to India in a ship. And we had extensive discussions with the animal husbandry department in India. And at one point, we were led to believe that it is going to be possible. After we finished our first Kerala schedule is when we got the communication from the animal husbandry department, I think, saying that you can't do it because there are regulations in place, quarantine regulations in place, you can't bring livestock in. So then that idea got, and you won't believe it, the set work had started in Rajasthan. And then suddenly we are thinking, oh my God, we can't, without those animals are such an integral part of the film that without them you can't shoot.
Right.
So then there was this last moment scurrying. We had already Blessy had already gone to Morocco, Oman, UAE, many countries, and he was just not happy. Then there was a last moment scurry between Egypt and Jordan and all these places, and finally we realized Jordan is a place to go because the livestock is available, the topography is available. That's how it ended up being an entirely foreign shoot. And the cost involved is not just finding the locations and shooting in those places. Okay, you found the locations, you finally know where you're shooting, you've got all your things in place. Now the process of shooting. Now anyway you're mounting a film like this, you're dreaming of a film like this. So then you have to, the most important part of the whole process is shoot it right, isn't it? So when you shoot in desert, one of the most important aspects of filming in desert topography under natural light is of course the light. So we were very particular that if there is an early morning scene, we will only shoot it in early morning. And sunrise light, so to speak, in the desert is about 20 minutes because there is that light that happens in the sky and on the dunes just as the sun is coming up. Once it is up, then it is bright. So you have about 20 minutes, 20-25 minutes. So if there is a sunrise scene, we would shoot it at sunrise across 25 days. If there
This almost sounds like the desert equivalent of Magic Hour.
Yes, actually, yeah. And there's a magic hour in the evening also. And it is very different to the magic hour in other terrains. I know that because I've spent so much time there. And if there is a scene where, it's about thirst, right? And you need to feel like the sun is really beating down on this man. And, you know, and we've decided, okay, we want to shoot this when the sun is right on top so that your eyebrow casts a shadow on your face, and so it's about, let's say, about 12 to 2 is the time. We would shoot it from 12 to 2 across 20 days.
Right.
So very few films have had the luxury and, more importantly, the conviction behind them to do it this way.
Right.
That is where we spent the most money.
Right.
The most money was spent in shooting it right.
Right.
Yeah. And I think it shows. I hope people also think that it shows.
Right. Now, when I type in Prithviraj and Aadujeevitham in Google, I get results all the way back to 2017, 2016, where you're talking about, oh, next time doing this movie, next time doing this movie.
Actually, if you search harder, you will get it from 2009.
Right. Yeah. So one of the things that you've said is, you were asked how you're going to play Najib, right? And you said the character's conception always belongs to an actor. So I always hope that I get it right. I will have Najib in my head. I will speak to him. How did you end up speaking to Najib, and how did you end up acting as this man who has nobody to react to his actions?
Yeah. So obviously, when you get the opportunity to play a real life character, and when that character is still alive and well and amongst us, the first instinct is right. You meet the person and you talk to him, and you see if there are mannerisms you want to try and pick up. Blessy was the first one to tell me, no, don't do that. It came from the director. I have to give him credit for this. He said, don't do that. He said, you've read the book, right? And now you've read the screenplay. So you're intelligent enough to understand what has that process been? What have we tried to do? So you can't make a feature film out of the entire book called Aadujeevitham, because literature, of course, has a liberty of micro-detailing.
Yeah.
The entire book would mean a 10-hour long film. And also, more importantly, you cannot challenge the reader's imagination. Right? You can't challenge a reader's imagination in the sense that you can't tell a reader that, no, the masala you saw is wrong. This is the actual masala. You can't do that. What can you do? You can attempt to make the audience feel what you imagine Najib must have felt.
Right.
And Blessy has had extensive conversations with Najib on what did you feel? Enda Tonia, what did you feel? Each day, what did you feel? And Blessy has created a character arc from what he thinks, he's imagined, he's understood Najib must have felt. Yes. And then he left it to the actor's interpretation. He told me, no, you create a Najib. You won't believe this. The first time I spoke to Najib is after canning the last shot of Aadujeevitham. I canned the last shot of Aadujeevitham. We had invited Najib to the location that day. Blessy called cut and wrap. I walked over behind the camera. He was there. I met him and I spoke to him, and we have recorded that conversation. we have actually shot that conversation, which I think we should be releasing very soon. And one of the most profound moments I had was Najib. I think now he's beginning to speak more openly, and he's now being able to articulate the experience better. But he wasn't somebody who could speak very freely. So it took a while for me to, get him to speak. But one of the most profound experiences I had was I specifically asked him about 5, 6 instances. What were you thinking of? Actually, what was going through your mind? And it was almost a spiritual level connection when he told me things, and I realized, oh my God, I thought the same thing.
Wow.
I thought the exact same thing. I asked him, did you contemplate suicide? And he said, yeah, I did. And I said, what kept you from doing it? I mean, this is a deeply personal question to ask someone, right?
Yeah.
And what he told me was like, there's a scene in the film, and I said, my God, I was thinking the same thing. So when we were shooting, I have to thank Blessy. We shot this in a way where Blessy would many times tell me, so I'm not going to call cut.
Right.
When you feel you're done, you let us know.
Right.
Many times we have shot like that. This photograph you see behind you, that one particular photograph is a scene that we shot that way.
Right.
So they would roll the camera, and I would take my time, and I would just sit there and I'd think, what must have that man been thinking? And I'd imagine this is what he must have been thinking, and I'd just do what then happens.
Right.
And then, after a while, there'll be somebody, okay, so can we cut? And it'll be like that. So many instances when Najib spoke to me, I realized I got that right.
Right.
And I can't take credit for it. Must have been some form of divine intervention where I was being shown the correct direction for the character. But that was a profound experience for me. Yeah.
Right. Now, when you have this, this book, because you're speaking about Najib, but it's actually Benjamin who initiated or showed Najib's world to the world at large, right?
Yes.
Now, in the book, there's so much of Najib's mental monologue, or whatever you call it, there are these passages where he's thinking about the death of a pregnant sheep.
Yeah.
There are these passages where he's thinking about how the desert has decided to, do such things to him and things like that. There's these very surreal kind of, almost like a mirage-like things.
Yeah.
How do you convert those very bookish, how did Blessy convert those very bookish kind of things into cinema?
Yeah.
If you could just give like a light example.
So, very good question actually, because the first draft of Aadujeevitham that Blessy had written had many, if you know, there's a left of the script and a right of the script, do the new generation filmmakers still write that way?
I don't know, but I know it's Malayalam cinema, Shankar writes that way.
I do.
Yeah,
I like having a left, and so whenever I write something, I like
dialogue and action.
Yeah, I like the left, the description and the dialogues separately on the right side of the page. So the left had so many monologues, and in the second draft, many of those monologues were on the right, as though I'm sitting there and just sort of telling myself. So at one discussion, one of the lengthiest discussions, disagreements, one among the thousands of fights Blessy and me have had, is I said, no, I'm not saying the monologues. And Blessy said, okay. And see, that's a great thing about him as a filmmaker. He will never tell you no. He'll ask you why. So I am saying that, yeah, you have to accept the fact that you've written it here as a monologue because you don't have a better way of devising this emotion to be conveyed without actually voicing it. He said, yeah. He said, so how do you think we can do it? I said, I'm not going to claim I'm a good enough actor to be saying all this without saying anything, but we have to figure a way. So many instances of the film, you will just see and feel and hear silence. Mm-hmm. And the camera is just on my face, and I'm hoping that I've been able to convey what is in his mind. Yeah, what is in his mind. And like I've said this repeatedly again for all the media interactions I've had, it is a very complex character arc to be looking at as one big singular piece. So Blessy and me had we agreed upon one thing, that we will have to break it down. Mm-hmm. So there is information that you give the audience, as in who was he before he reached the desert. what did he leave behind?
Right.
What did he do, back home? So that information comes in the form of small segments of flashback in between the first half. But other than that, the main chunk of after reaching the desert, that character arc, we decided that it had to be sort of broken down.
Right.
And we broke it down into 3 phases. One is, so initially we kept saying it will be 3 weeks, 3 months, 3 years. But now we have not demarcated it so specifically. But in my mind, it is that. That he reaches in the desert, the first 3 weeks, where he's fighting the circumstances, he's in denial. He is thinking, no, this can't be happening to me. And he's trying to convince whoever he sees around him that, no, this is a mistake. I was not supposed to come here. I was supposed to go to another company for work, and this is a mistake. I need to go. So the denial, the 3 weeks of denial. So there the performance arc is different, right? He's trying to fight all the circumstances. Right. He's trying to somehow, he's still telling himself that this is not real. This is not where I'm meant to be. And then you break the narrative and you see him 3 months later, where now he's lost a bit of weight. He's gone darker because he's under the sun all day. His hair has grown, his beard has grown, and he's angry. He's angry at the circumstances around him. He's angry at himself for having made the decision of coming. He's angry at God, most importantly.
And he's a very firm believer.
Yeah. So, in fact, there is a scene where I don't even think the dialogue was written. I think it was just came out like that. In that anger phase, where for the first time, when the water truck comes, after a long while, after 3 months, he gets to see himself in the rear view mirror of the truck. And that's when he realizes how much he's changed. And he's sitting on a sand dune and he's just blabbering and he's saying, he's sort of trying to make sense, like how long has it been? Like he's lost sense of time. Like how many days has it been? Like if the beard has grown so much, like when did I reach? Because after a point you lose sense of day, night, week, everything. And then he's about to call God, he's about to say Allah and he stops. And he realizes, for what? What am I calling him for? I mean, if there was a God, I wouldn't be here. What am I calling him for? And that anger seeps in. So there's the phase of anger, where the performance is like that, and the portrayal is like that. Then the narrative breaks at one point, and you see him 3 years later, where now he's become one among the elements. He's become one among the animals. He's almost lost his ability to articulate. He's almost lost his ability to communicate in a spoken language. He's only speaking to the sheep and the camel.
Right.
And when you see him amongst the sheep, he seems like one of them. He's now developed characteristics like he blinks a lot,
right,
which is something I picked up. So I said this yesterday again for the press meet. When I went there for the first schedule, 2019 beginning, the Fat Desert schedule, we were shooting one night, one particular sequence, and I was looking around and I realized everyone is blinking like this. The director, cameraman, crew, everybody, they're blinking like this. So we had these Bedouin animal trainers to take care of the animals, and I realized they are also blinking. And for them, and the difference being, the Indian crew were blinking like it was a problem. They were sitting there and doing that as though it is just a normal thing to do. So I remember talking to this man, so he was the one Bedouin guy who could speak a bit of English. So he from what he told me, what I understood is that it is something everyone does, because in the desert your eyes dry up, very soon. So you keep blinking to keep them moist. And for them now it's become like a subconscious thing to do.
Right.
So that's something I built into the performance, that when you see him 3 years later, he's constantly blinking, almost like a nervous twitch.
Right.
So that is a point of the performance arc where he's almost at a spiritual plane, where now he's come to terms with the fact that this is something I have to live through.
Right.
There is no point fighting it. I cannot be angry anymore, because anger is just meaningless now. And regardless of however long this is, I'm just going to live this. I'm just going to experience this day after day after day. And whatever is on the other side, it could be death, it could be escape, it could be salvation, I am going to welcome it with open arms.
Right.
So you meet that kind of a man. So these three phases are the three phases in the performance arc. And this was a design that Blessy and me landed on like before we left for Jordan. Because after we finished all the flashback, I remember Blessy telling me, we need to sit. And he's very honest that way. So I remember him telling me, I don't know how to chart this, you know. So let us talk. Let us sit and talk. And it is such a joy for an actor to sit with a filmmaker, and an amazing filmmaker, and to discover the film together, you know, to discover the process together. I don't think I've had the privilege of doing that for any film, including my own films. So,
yeah. The music is by A.R Rahman.
Yeah.
Do you have a favorite track in the movie, and why?
So, see, I'm going to take you back to what I told you about the film and the character, that it's just a lot of silence, right? It's just a lot of silence. And sometimes what happens with films that have so much of silence and that are trying to create a mainstream narrative within something so, you know, niche as this, the music can become overbearing. Now, what Rahman sir has done is absolute magic. I've had the privilege of working in two films where he's lent music to. One is Ravanan, of course. The other one is Kavya Thalaivan. But when I was on my way back from Los Angeles after finishing one schedule of my directorial, from my Dubai connection, when I got into the aircraft, I saw him. He was sitting next to me, and I'm seeing him after a long time. The first thing I told him is, I so wish I had the score when I was acting. Because he is almost, A.R Rahman sir is a character in the film. So how he's understood and cracked that thing of where does the music scape have to be from God's perspective? Where does it have to be from the director's perspective? Where does it have to be from the character's perspective? It's just absolute magic. I love what he's done for the film. And I know that by now the songs are a smash hit, at least in Kerala. I don't know what's happening in other places. In Kerala, people are loving the songs. They love Periyone. I also love Periyone. They love the love song, which is a complex melody, which actually, you know, it takes you back to Rahman sir's Roja days. Because I sort of, there's a lot of Chinna Chinna Ase and all in it. It's like one of those pristine, not just a tune, the sounding, and the song is in water, you know. For somebody who does not know that, you listen to the song, you'll sense water, you'll sense moisture, and that's the genius of the man. But my absolute favorite thing about the music in the film is the background scoring.
Okay, not a song as such.
I love all the songs, it's a background scoring. And there is a point in the film where the song called Periyone kicks in.
Right.
It's just, for me, it's just amazing.
Gooseflesh.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, you know, Malayalam cinema is going through this great year.
Yeah.
You know, Premalu, Manjumal Boys, Brahmayugam.
Brahmayugam.
Is there any either nervousness or pressure about the box office of this film? Because this is, and I'm not asking because every film you wonder how people are going to receive it and all that. But because this is such a special film.
See, if at all anything, I should be thankful to all of those filmmakers and everyone involved with those films. Because everyone is now talking about Malayalam cinema, right? Everybody is talking about Malayalam cinema.
People are always talking about Malayalam cinema.
Yeah, but I mean, what has happened over the past 1 month has not happened, you know, at such regular intervals ever before. Like we've had a Manjumal Boys that is probably a bigger hit outside Kerala than in Kerala. I don't know the exact numbers, but I have been led to believe that the Tamil Nadu collections are as big or even bigger than Kerala. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
And what's happened outside of India, and with Premalu doing so well in Telugu, and now I think Tamil is releasing, Brahmayugam creating so much of conversation around how the film was made, and of course Mammootka's performance. Generally, I think now over the past 1 month, everybody is now looking at Malayalam cinema, and the next big film that's coming is The Goat Life,
right.
Aadujeevitham. Thank you so much for creating that stage,
that space,
for the film. I'm just happy that this has happened just before Aadujeevitham has happened, and I'm wise enough and experienced enough to know that I stand to hugely benefit from what these films have done.
Right.
So, no, I'm not, there's no pressure. If at all there is anything, it's a sense of thankfulness. Box office, yes, that's what we have made this film for. Because the film is such, there's a lot of conversation around, awards, that, you know, you have to send it for awards, for international awards. Well, it would be nice. It would be nice to be recognized. But ultimately, I would any day pick Aadujeevitham being a blockbuster than any award, because that is what we made the film for lakhs and lakhs of people to come to the theatres. And everyone says this about the film. Make no mistake, this is a big screen film. Like I have seen the trailer that is now out 1,000 times. I mean, on small screens, big screens. Yesterday at the press meet, when it was again played in the big screen in PVR, it takes your breath away, actually, you know. So it's a definite big screen film, and I hope the film goes on to be a huge, huge hit. But like all my films, I'm going to be detached with the result of it, right? I know that 28th of March this film will release. Either of one scenarios will happen, and 29th of March I'll have to now continue doing my work. There's no point in me thinking, oh my God, the effort I made, the amount of time I gave. No, that's not how cinema works. But unlike other films and unlike other characters, I also know that I'm probably not going to be able to walk away from Najib ever.
Yeah. And let's end on a personal note. You know, every birthday is a fun birthday for most people, but then when a decade change happens, sometimes there is a bit of self-reflection, introspection, whatever. You recently, you know, turned 40.
Yes.
And what was the churn that happened, if anything happened? Because it's also, I mean, I'm asking both professionally and personally, because the thing is, as an actor now, you've got to look at what kind of roles can I do now, and also like if anything personal.
So there's this, when you, so DQ turned 40 recently, right? So for all of us, when we are turning 40, the whole conversation leading up to the birthdays, oh, the big 40, the 40 and all that, it doesn't feel any different from 39.
Right.
No, it really doesn't. It's just, it's just that number. Must have been some grand marketing genius who decided 40th birthday should be special, so spend a lot of money. So, you know, I'm not sure. But I think, I've said this before, I think I'm at that stage where now I've got the opportunity to really flourish as an actor.
Right.
Because I also think I'm at that point in my career where I can do an Aadujeevitham, I can do a Bade Miyan Chote Miyan, I can do a Sarazameen and a Vilayat Buddha the same year. That wouldn't have been possible at 25. And that will definitely not be possible at 55.
Right.
So I think this is a really nice time to be an actor. And I'm so happy that at this time, when I've hit that phase, Malayalam cinema and Indian cinema in general is doing so well.
Yeah. I mean, that's great, because, you know, once, I think this is like a great in-between phase, because it's like I don't know, you know, yes, with makeup technology and all, you can play Najib at any age and all that.
Yeah.
But there is also a certain mental maturity that
absolutely
you probably, you know, your age must have helped you to get into that character. So all the best for Aadujeevitham.
Thank you so much.
And yeah, it was great talking to you. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks.
GT Holidays, South India's #1 travel brand.
GUVI, a vernacular edutech brand, skilling everyone everywhere.